And to hold up your flyer, it's the Fed, stupid?
Sure. I gotta be in the
in the right wind, or else it's gonna tear you apart.
Sailing this week. Okay. The Fed, stupid. Don't you get it?
Well, no. Why don't you tell us something about it?
There are 8 families that control the world. They control the whole banking system. They are a banking cartel.
Okay.
A cartel of banks. They are privately owned.
Okay.
And they own our Federal Reserve.
And you are? And where are you from?
My name is Tom. Tom Ball. I'm from Maryland. I'm a sovereign citizen of the state of Maryland. And so I grew up here in D.C. in Maryland.
Okay, so as a sovereign citizen of Maryland, you're not worried about being taken out by a drone attack by a politician?
Not yet, anyway. They haven't gotten to that point, but the technology is there, let me tell you. The technology is there. When they start taking out political activists and dissidents, then you start worrying, you start running for the border.
I noticed you actually, your sign says Fed owns Obama.
Yes.
I've asked a question, the same question to several people in here, and I'm surprised at some of the answers I've gotten. But one of the primary goals at October11.org says that they want to remove corporate money from elections, or from politics. And my question is,
how do you do that?
Well, how do you say that and yet not call out the fact that Obama's probably one of the largest beneficiaries of corporate elections?
And from Goldman Sachs, especially the banks that make up the Federal Reserve, especially that make up the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. They have a special relationship with the Bank of New York, and also they have a special relationship with Goldman Sachs. And Goldman Sachs is a major contributor to both parties. All campaigns, presidential, state level, but they donate to Obama and they also donate to Bush. So you're not a Bush versus Obama person. You see through both parties. They own both parties.
Okay.
They just give you your option, like Coke or Pepsi. Which one do you want? You know, and they choose Obama. You know, okay, Obama is your Democrat flavor of the month, so they get behind him. You notice that Obama just carried on Bush's policies. He started 3 more wars in the Middle East.
Not to mention the fact that he ordered the killing of 2 American citizens by drones.
There are horrible crimes and war crimes going on in these wars. And, you know, the banks that make up the Federal Reserve, they own the military-industrial complex, they own the media, they own it all. So they're over there making a lot of money on these wars. They're in the war business. So they're making a lot of money right now. And they also contribute to presidential candidates like Obama. So if you look up the statistics, you can find out how much Goldman Sachs contributed to the Obama campaign and the Bush campaign. You see how they control the American politics, the American political scene.
You know what I find interesting is everybody I've talked to so far, I mean, there's really not an overflowing of support. I mean, it's like people are actually calling out and saying that Obama's just as guilty as the rest of them in this, and I'm kind of surprised at that.
Yeah, well, I think as a Democrat, their heads must be exploding right now because they voted for an anti-war Democrat. He ran as an anti-war Democrat, and everyone thought he's going to get in, he's going to stop the wars, like he said he would. And of course he hadn't, and he started 3 more. And everyone must be like, what's going on? Why is he doing this?
You know, what you just said actually is almost verbatim for what a MSNBC contributor said on the Andrea Mitchell report on Thursday, and I almost had a heart attack even listening to the guy, because he's actually calling out the fact that they said, look, we supported Obama over Clinton because Hillary was just going to get on the horse and ride it, and Obama said he was actually going to replace it and change it, and then when he got into office, it's the same thing.
And you know Hillary Clinton is now running the State Department. She's running those wars over there, pretty much.
And that's true. That's
and
true.
Obama, they've just continued these wars. So, and it's the banks, you have to understand, it goes back to the banks who own the military-industrial complex.
Okay.
They own these military companies, and they're selling a lot of weapons over there.
Excuse me, can you guys hold on a second? I'd like to ask you a question if you don't mind. Okay. Thanks. What are you guys doing down here?
Well, actually,
what brought you down?
we actually came down here to D.C. just to come out for the weekend. We were walking around last night and seeing all these people hanging out here. Yeah. Well,
Where are you from?
This is Tennessee.
Okay, cool.
What part?
Johnson City.
I just moved back up here from Chattanooga.
Oh, okay.
So
I was going to go to school in Chattanooga.
well, I was too, until, interesting enough, the University of Tennessee Chattanooga refused to allow my admission. They said that I didn't meet the quote-unquote college community lifestyle.
No.
So, trust me, I have no idea. but yeah, it's actually UTC in Chattanooga. But anyway, so now that you're up here, what have you seen? What do you like? What are you confused about? What do you support?
This is all her.
Well, I've seen
She's the full supporter.
I don't know if it's pro.
See, and that's the thing.
Pro-socialist?
I don't even know how you would compare.
And that's what I want. You know, it's interesting. I'm getting people's opinions here, and I'm surprised. I thought that I really would get a large backflow, you know, asking about, well, if you want money, corporate money out of politics, then you need to call out the one who's actually benefiting the most from it right now. I mean, let's face it, you've got a sitting president talking about having $1 billion in contributions for a simple election next year. So I am really surprised at the fact that a large number of people here understand that, and they are saying the same thing, that he's just as guilty as the rest of them. So,
Fascism is what it is, corporatism.
Yeah.
what do you do in Johnson City?
School. We both go to school.
I'm trying to think. Johnson City's up 75, isn't it, or is it up 24?
24.
Okay. It's between Chattanooga going to Nashville.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Wait, isn't it Nashville?
It's between Chattanooga and going up to
Going towards Knoxville. On 7?
going towards Knoxville.
Is it? Okay.
It's like we're past Knoxville. We're an hour.
Oh, wait a minute. You're off of 81. I know where Johnson City is.
Am I thinking 26?
Exactly.
Ask him. He's been there his whole life.
Yep.
So I've been there
Border,
only
right,
2
with
years.
Virginia?
It's
right
just
there.
it's just about 20. In fact, I would be willing to say it's about exactly 28 miles south of Bristol.
Yeah. We're about
That's
30
Johnson
minutes away.
City, Kingsport.
Elizabethan.
Yeah,
all those.
okay.
Yes, that's exactly where we're from.
So you're enjoying yourself in DC?
Love it. It's just, I mean, we don't get this much diversity in Tennessee. And all these views, the ideas, they're just, you know, not too many people in Tennessee. We don't have the opportunity to speak out like this and join in big crowds like this.
That's well, I guess you are in the northern part, because I was going to say, I think Chattanooga and Knoxville, you know, really are a diverse, and primarily because of UT, you know, the University of Tennessee. But yeah, I guess you're right. Being in Johnsonville, you're kind of like NASCAR, Larry the Cable Guy.
It's just even included in diversity is like the thoughts of everyone. I've seen so many different posters, and they weren't all about the same thing. Everybody's just saying, this is what I believe needs to happen. This is what I'm going to write on this poster. It doesn't have to agree with them. This is just what I believe. This is what I stand for, and I like that.
And that's what I found by coming over here today. Contrary to the website, I mean, I've noticed some of the groups here actually said, you know, we're not actually part of the organizer of this. We just came to, you know, to let our views be shown and known. And it is interesting. There are so many different groups here under one umbrella that they have no idea what the umbrella they're sitting under is, but they're enjoying every minute of it.
That is so true.
It comes down to a few things, really. Are you a 9/11 truther?
Not really. Although I have some of them that know me that kind of send me all the stuff. I mean, there's some questions, but I honestly, you know.
It is 10 years later, but it, you know, what you think about that determines what you think about everything else.
And believe me, some of the people here with October11.org, I guarantee you will find a group that are convinced that 9/11 was an inside job, just like
I feel like it was.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was.
I mean, but
They took it down with nanothermite. They found it in the dust.
But see, and everybody has the opinion. I mean, I even ran into a guy, an older gentleman just now, that I asked him about, because he's carrying a sign, you know, we're talking about take money out of elections, and I'm like, well, Obama's probably the biggest beneficiary, and he goes, Obama's Jesus Christ to me. And then he tells me that I'm lying, that Obama's never once taken a contribution from a corporate donor, and I'm like, okay. I mean, but you're right. there's a lot of different views.
Yeah, and I don't feel like Obama's a bad guy. I feel like kind of like he has no control over what to do. He can't
I don't think any of them have any
It's just
control.
like people over him telling him what to do. He can't. What is he gonna do? JFK.
I think he got the message when the Wall Street crowd did not show up for his latest New York fundraiser.
Yeah.
And believe me, money does talk in politics, and I think they do have a legitimate gripe on that one. But to turn around and say just shut everything down and, you know, concentrate on putting everything into individuals and,
You know, there's
I mean,
as corporate individuals now, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A corporation can give money as an individual.
But here's my question. Are we really at a point in this nation to where we're ready to become a Greece? Okay? To where the government actually gives you your house, tells you where you're going to live, gives you your food, tells you how much you're going to have for food. I mean, are we really ready to do that? I don't think anybody in this country, no matter how bad off they are, is willing to turn around and say, okay, I'm ready for the government to tell me what car I can and cannot drive. Yeah. I don't think we're ready for that. I hope we're not ready for that.
We still have a huge economy. They're going to take down this economy as best they can, destroy the currency, really. But they're going to destroy the currency, crash the dollar. Jobs that they've already exported all the manufacturing jobs over to India and China. There's no manufacturing left in this country.
Exactly.
There's no manufacturing base.
And if you've lived in Johnson City all your life, look, I grew up in South Carolina, okay? My grandmother, my father, my grandfather, almost my entire family, their job was in textiles, where they actually made clothing here. It doesn't have made in Taiwan, South Korea, China, Malaysia, Hong Kong. I mean, you can't find anything. And he's right. All of these manufacturing jobs.
No manufacturing. I'm an engineer, so I build machines.
Well, now the United Auto Workers just entered an agreement with GM to where they're reopening the Spring Hill, Tennessee, the old Saturn plant.
GM. Well, Detroit is like gone. Detroit doesn't exist anymore. It's like they closed down whole neighborhoods, just whole rows of houses just for sale because there's no jobs. People just left.
Wow.
You know, and GM didn't go under. Obviously, they bailed them out.
But no, Detroit has definitely become a decrepit city. And unfortunately, though, people sat there and allowed it to do that because the unions, the United Auto Workers Union, let's face it, they literally put those auto companies to the point to where they had
tools of economic warfare. They go into companies like GM, they take it over, they blow up everybody's salaries and everybody's benefits, and the corporation can't afford to pay it at some point. After 30 years, they can't support everyone's pensions, everyone's benefits, everyone's salaries. They close down. You know, so unions bring that about. A lot of people don't get that. The unions are bad. You have a right to have a union, to privately to organize. You have a right to do that,
but you don't have a right to
always
demand.
has a right to lay you off.
Yeah.
And like my grandfather was a coal miner in Pennsylvania, and they just laid him off, and he was broke.
Okay, the employer doesn't have always the right to lay you off. The United States Postal Service is $8 billion in the red, and believe it or not, because
jobs in Tennessee, they will without even notice.
Yeah.
They don't have to have a reason to fire them. They just
If you didn't show up, let's say you did strike and you didn't show up for work, you'd fire you for not showing up for work.
Yeah.
They can always fire.
There's no written notice, there's no
Right.
warning, there's nothing.
Right.
It's
The
like,
employer
yeah.
always is right. So unions are always, the union boss is always in bed with the management. Most people don't get that. You know?